Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of a Frugal Athlete podcast. Today, we got a very special guest, a guest that I've been trying to get in contact with for the longest time to do this podcast.
Yeah.
She has an amazing story, doing a lot of great things, both internationally and domestically. So we thought it would be great to have her on the podcast to get her insight on all things sport, all things playing overseas, all things managing your money, both domestically and globally. But today we have Chiaka Ogbogu, fellow Nigerian, so got to represent there. She's a professional volleyball player, represents the national team as well, captain, leader, trendsetter. So Chiaka, how you doing today?
I'm good. Finally glad that we got this figured out, but thanks for having me. How are
No,
you?
thank you so much for making the time. So let's talk about it. You're a busy lady. Talk about everything that you're currently up to.
So I'm currently playing in Istanbul, Turkey for a professional club called Vakıfbank. This is my second season with them, but my third season, second year in Istanbul. So I'm here from October through May is like the length of our season. And then I head back to the States where I spend most of my time in the States from May through end of September with the national team in California.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you talk about, Turkey as a culture, but then also like the volleyball culture? Is it similar to, how basketball players in the WNBA, they play in the WNBA and then off season they go to like Russia or overseas? What's that like?
Yeah, so it's very similar. The only difference is we don't have yet, it's coming, a professional domestic league. So most of us who want to pursue volleyball post-college have to play overseas. But the Turkish league is one of the strongest leagues in the world. Most of the European leagues are really strong. The Turkish league is like arguably one of the best. But in terms of Turkish culture, I think this is why I've enjoyed my time here and I've wanted to stay here for so long. Turkish people are extremely inviting. They have a very familial sense of environment, or just sense of how they communicate with other people. For example, how they address other people. Everyone, there's a Turkish word for it. It's like abla or abi, which means sister or brother. So even strangers you don't know, they address each other as brother and sister. So they have a very big family sense of culture here, which it's been something that I've noticed. Obviously, I'm a foreigner and they can tell I'm a foreigner, but just how they're able to invite me into their culture. It's been really cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Let's rewind a little bit. So how did you get to Turkey and volleyball in the first place? Like, talk about your upbringing. Give us the spiel.
Yeah, so my upbringing. So I'm a first generation American. So both my parents were born and raised in Nigeria and then immigrated to America, met in America, got married, had me and my
Oh, they met in
siblings.
America.
They
Oh,
did.
that's
Yeah, they
amazing.
both met in New York.
Okay.
Yeah. So once I was born, they moved to Dallas, which is where I've lived my entire life, basically. But I guess just I was like most kids, going through elementary, middle school, you're involved in some sort of sport. I didn't find volleyball until 8th grade, later in my years. I was being an athlete. I was doing basketball and track through middle school, through elementary school. So once I started volleyball, I loved it and dropped all the other sports for it. Eventually earned a scholarship to play at University of Texas. Played there for 4 years. Right before graduating, professional volleyball or playing past that point was never really something I envisioned. Coming from a Nigerian household, the next step is usually to go to more school. So that was something I never entertained, something my parents never really entertained, but my college coaches and former teammates really pushed me to just try it. Ended up getting an agent, signing to play in Italy for half a season because I had graduated early in December. Long story short, eventually made my way to Turkey on a different team, but love the city so much and love the league so much that I want to stay even if it wasn't on that team. And I found the team I'm currently on, which I love and enjoy. And this is my second season, and I'm hoping to play more with them.
No, that's amazing. And it's just shout out to taking a chance on yourself and betting on yourself to, continue to pursue a sport that may not be where it needs to be domestically, but
Mhm.
the great thing about volleyball is that it's a global game.
For sure, yeah.
Can
It's
can you
really big out here.
That's amazing to see. Like, because if I were to guess, I wouldn't put Turkey on the top of the list for investing in volleyball, specifically both men and women. So the way you talk about it is really amazing to hear. Can you talk about the life of like an international volleyball player? You're in one country for the season, but then you come back to the States and California to prepare for the national team. What's that like, and how do you balance your personal life, your finances, social life? What's that like, to give some insight?
Yeah, well, it's not easy to balance any of those things, I'll tell you that. So for someone like myself, who's on the national team, who like has the honor to be on the USA national team, I basically don't have an off season. So I play most of us who are on the national team play anywhere from 6 to 8 months out of the year overseas with our professional teams. And then we come home and we train and compete. There's other tournaments besides the Olympics. I mean, most people only know that we compete in the Olympics, but we're competing every summer leading up to it. For example, last summer with the national team, we had something called World Championships, which for us is like in the volleyball world, just as big as the Olympics, but probably
Yeah.
in the sports world, like no one knows that we play in this. So we had that last summer. This upcoming summer, we have Olympic qualifiers. So each year in what they call a quad is like a really big tournament that sets up your rankings for ultimately the Olympics. We obviously want to qualify this summer and then have a good ranking so that going into the Olympics, we're in a good pool and have good matchups that like obviously put us in the best position to win. But as far as balancing everything, it's difficult. I will say when I'm over here, I try to be really focused on just being here and being present and doing what I can to help these teams. Obviously, for myself and for all professional volleyball players, we make a bulk of our money overseas. Like this is where we make probably 85% of our money. With the national team, not so much. We get like stipends and then we have prize money for winning tournaments or medaling at tournaments. But for most of us, like our income comes from overseas. So I try to be really present and focused while I'm here. And then when I'm home, obviously it's just time to like focus on national team stuff. But the balance is, I feel like I have it a little bit down now. Like what helps is having visitors.
Yeah.
So I was talking to one of my friends the other day. From now until the end of season, which will be May, I have a visitor or visitors coming every month. So that helps like
that's really
break
cool.
up. Yeah, it also helps break up the season because the season can be a little long and a little grueling. And as long as you have like something to kind of look forward to besides matches, like it helps just like ease the feeling of being homesick, which is normal for most players. But I wouldn't say I have it down perfect. I don't think anyone ever does, but I feel like finding that balance of getting rest and recovery while I'm here, especially on days off, if that means like traveling to another city in Turkey or another country, since traveling within Europe is super easy and a lot cheaper.
I heard Turkey's Turkey airport is amazing. Like
it's nice. Yeah, it's like brand new. I think like 2-3 years old. It's really nice.
Okay. No, that's great insight. You led us to a perfect segue. You talk about the compensation, as a volleyball player. Many would consider volleyball similar to like tennis or other sports, like a niche sport that has a cult-like following. But the investment is not where it needs to be. So can you talk about other ways that, you or other volleyball players look to, find additional streams of income?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for a lot of volleyball players, we have like brand deals or brand sponsorships. For myself, I'm a Nike athlete. So I get like an income from Nike Volleyball to wear the shoes to promote the gear and all of that, and then a couple like promotional things throughout the year. Also have like a couple smaller sponsorships. TIY is one of them. It's a hair tie company, and then other ones sprinkled here and there are like one-time gigs. But most
Yeah.
of us have like either what we call like a shoe sponsorship, which is like the Adidas, the Nike, the Puma, and then like smaller brands here and there.
And do you work with like a management team, or do you handle those things yourself?
I don't. It's honestly very common for most players to handle it ourselves. I know a couple players who do work through like agencies or have managers for that. But I do most of it on my own.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you have any advice for, an athlete that's looking to get, brand deals, how to position themselves for opportunities that, are similar to the ones that you've been able to acquire over the course of your career?
Yeah. I would say word of mouth helps the most. Speaking to people who have been in your sport, who have been playing either in your position or in your field, whatever sport you play, speaking to them about how they acquired their brand deals. That's what I did.
Hmm.
Speaking to other athletes, like, hey, do you have the contact information for Nike Volleyball? What did it take for you to get sponsored by them? That's what I started doing. And then reaching out to whichever brand or company it is, obviously introducing yourself, telling a little bit about yourself and your achievements, because they ultimately do want to see that like you're a high performing athlete. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I think most of the companies just want to work with someone who they know can get eyes on whatever they're trying to sell. So just kind of like setting yourself up in a way that like shows that you were able to promote whatever they're trying to sell.
No, that's really important and great advice for, especially the athletes that are looking to monetize their name, their image, their likeness, their brand, whatever may have you. As it pertains to the brands that you look for, obviously you said you get advice from people that have done it before, but was there like any personal exercises that you do? It's like identifying brands that you want to associate with, or kind of like, all right, I'm just going to go and see who wants to work together and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I started playing professionally in 2018 and I had no idea what I was doing in terms of brand sponsorships and I had no idea which direction to go in. And then we kind of had like a weird year with obviously
COVID.
COVID happening in the
Yeah.
Olympics. So that kind of put a lot of things on hold. But I know going into, I hope to be at the next Olympics, going into that cycle, just figuring out, which I feel like I'm kind of doing now, like which brands I want to align with or which direction I want to go in terms of brand sponsorships. Because I know usually around the Olympics is when brands start like contacting teams, especially the national teams, like which players, usually our marketing department, which players do they think will fit in this direction or which players are available for this. So I think this summer is for sure. And then next summer or going into next summer will be when I start thinking seriously about like where I want to align myself.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's you just strategically timing ahead of the World Cup. I'm sorry, not the World Cup, the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it's all about. I want to talk about, you talked about the payment structure as a volleyball player playing overseas. You talked
Mhm.
about the brand. Uh, let's talk about how you handle personal finance. You kind of got sprung into the professional ranks right out of college. How did you go about learning, how to manage your money? Um, was it your parents? Was it trial and error? Was it learning from, veterans in the game? Because I'd imagine it's like just jumping into the professional ranks. You want to get acclimated to the team. You want to make a good impression, but now you're getting paid and you're overseas, but then you're in the
Mhm.
States. Like, how did you handle everything?
Yeah. I would say it's a combination of like asking, well, not even asking my parents and like inserting themselves into helping me figure it out. And then asking former players. But it's a weird transition. You go from college to basically, I mean, now they have NIL,
Yeah.
which amazing for them. I wish that was the thing when I was in school. But back then, making like next to nothing in college and then going to making like having an actual salary and income and figuring out how to manage that. I would say the first few years, so this is my going into my 5th year of playing professionally. I would say the first like 3.5, just my parents helping me set up like investment accounts, figuring out saving, um, working with the CPA because I play overseas,
Yeah.
and figuring out how to do taxes was a nightmare in the beginning, but I feel like I have it figured out now. But I would say like the last year, going into our post Olympics, like I've wanted to take more responsibility with my finances and getting a financial advisor, setting that up, figuring out what investments and things I want to make in the next couple of years. And just like trying to educate myself as much as possible with how I can basically just continue what I've been doing and then help make my money work for me in a way.
No, I love that. Real quick, you talked about NIL. You did go to University of Texas, a top premier school program, but specifically volleyball program. They have a great team. In hindsight, how would you tackle NIL if you were if you had the opportunity to?
Right? Oh my gosh. See, and I was very blessed to go to a school like Texas that already has a lot of eyes on them. Like it's a notable sports school for so many different sports, especially volleyball. They just won. Shout out to my horns. But it's hard to say. I feel like a school like Texas, a prominent D1 school, like I'm not going to say it's a little bit easier to get sponsorships, but I can imagine like a lot of brands have been like knocking down Texas doors, like wanting to communicate with a bunch of different athletes, especially coming from a school that has like a big football program, but also a really big volleyball program. I don't know. Maybe I have no idea. When I think about it now, like how I would have handled it, I think they had a little bit of time to prepare the athletes, but I don't know. I would have hoped that it would have gone well. It was a thing when we were there. It was something that we, as athletes, always said was, I think, a rule that I definitely didn't agree with. Like we should have always been able to earn an income based off our likeness. So I'm glad that things finally changed, but I have no idea how I would have handled it.
No, it's amazing. I feel like things would have taken care of themselves. You were a top player in college. I know y'all I think made the Final Four a couple of times. So I feel like things would have taken care of themselves. So that's great insight. You know, everything's in hindsight. But back into the, you know, personal finance and stuff. You mentioned like learning and stuff like that. Where do you you know, get your information now, like some of the resources that you use or resources that you'd recommend for, you know, athletes to look into?
I would say YouTube, honestly,
Yeah.
especially when it came to learning about taxes, especially taxes when I make essentially an income in America and overseas. Forbes, I feel like, is always a good, personally, resource and tool just for learning the ins and outs. I feel like I learned a lot about saving through Forbes. And honestly, your platform, I think that's why I first started following you, because I saw that you specifically were tailored towards athletes. So I felt like, okay, we're people who kind of have like an unconventional way of earning money. So it's nice to learn from other athletes who are also in the same boat and learn about how they save, invest, or, you know, helping themselves out in the money world.
Thank you so much. We did not pay her for that ad, but
I know this is a free ad.
free ad. So thank you, Chiaka, for that recommendation. But yeah, this is what a frugal athlete's all about. And really appreciate you coming on to share your story and how you navigate not only playing at the highest level overseas and internationally, but you know, the different nuances it takes, you know, from taxes, handling that internationally to brand deals. So it really means a lot for you to come on. As it pertains to, you know, you talked about things that you want to see from your portfolio moving forward? Do you have a specific like philosophy where it's like, all right, I'm going to focus on, stocks and, beefing up my brokerage account, or I want to get into real estate, or, I want to create passive income strategies. Do you have a philosophy?
I would say all of the above, but
Mhm.
I have a mutual funds account now, so I want to just continue working on like diversifying that. But honestly, a goal I have for myself for this year is getting into real estate. Um, I'm not necessarily giving myself like a time length where I need to accomplish this by, but I'm hoping to like get closer to getting my first investment in property by the end of this year, early next year. So that's been what myself and my financial advisor have been talking about the most, especially while I'm overseas. I basically live out of a suitcase, like not out of the actually 12 months of the year, because I'm not from California, but I live there during the summers. So it'd be nice to have also a place that I can earn money from when I'm overseas and in California, or if it's in California while I'm there too.
That's amazing. That's a great insight. How do you handle like deal flow? I'd imagine, being an international player, Olympian athlete, captain, people come to you for, deals, opportunities, invest in our company or advise our company. Do you have
Mhm.
like a almost like a criteria that that makes you make a decision of whether you're investing in it or you're gonna participate as an advisor? What does that look like? How do you say no? What qualifies you to say yes? Take us through that process.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say for me, it helps going through like my unofficial like board, which would be like my parents. I feel like my
Yeah.
dad is very financial savvy, so going through him. I do have a sports agent who helps me with negotiation when it comes to teams, but he's also very business minded. So I do go to him too for some financial advice and when it comes to other companies. And then just figuring out if it aligns with like things I'm interested in. Um, I think that's number one. If I'm not necessarily interested in whatever the company is about, like that's an easy no for me. But if I am, and there's still questions I have, like usually just going through parents, my agent, doing other research on my own just to figure out if it's a good fit.
No, yes, that's really good advice. Now you're a veteran in the game, 5, 6 years pro. If you could tell young Chiaka coming out of college, um, one piece of financial advice, what would it be?
Ooh, if I could tell Chiaka coming out of college one piece of financial advice, it would have been probably to get with a financial advisor earlier. And I think that's something that I tell a lot of college girls will come to me about advice, just about teams, but I always make sure I throw in like, make sure you look into getting a financial planner or financial advisor. If you don't have one in your family, like look elsewhere, because I think I definitely could have started earlier when it came to investing, one, and two, this rental property or investment property that I'm now looking into. I can only imagine like what it could have been if I would have started like earlier on in my career, especially
Mhm.
those who plan to play for a long time. I think getting started with all of that stuff as early as possible is only going to set you up even further going into your playing career.
No, yeah, I love that advice. Compound interest is the uh, eighth wonder of the world, as Albert Einstein says. And the earlier
Mhm.
you start, the better. Obviously, sports is a vehicle for everything else that we're going to do in our lives. And so the earlier we start, because we never know when it could be taken away. So I think that's sound advice. And not to kind of be a Debbie Downer, but you've already exceeded expectations. The average professional career is anywhere from 4 to 6 years. You're going on 6 to 7 years. Knock on wood, but if
Right.
all things check out, you'll be continuing to have a great career. But obviously, at some point, all roads come to an end. Have you thought about things that you're passionate about outside of volleyball, and what does that look like down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially for volleyball, I feel like we think about this a lot. Before I knew that there were domestic leagues coming in to the States, I think in 2025 is when the first two will debut. I had been thinking about this, and I wouldn't have known this unless I played overseas and played for various different organizations, and I've seen everything run from top to bottom. But I think I'm most interested in the sport or the business side of sports, especially when it comes to like team ownership and team management. I think one day it'd be really cool if volleyball really popped off in the States and was as big as it is overseas to be an owner of a club or organization, and to see what that looks like. But then also something as of late that I've been interested in exploring, especially these next few years when I'm in the States, is just media and sports, like the storytelling of
Love
athletes and
that.
brands like or companies like Uninterrupted and Together, just how they continue to like expand the knowledge of what we think athletes are and just expand like just the athlete's portfolio, essentially, just of who they are and what they stand for, I think is really important. So I would say those two.
No, I love that. I think that's amazing. How about telling your own story? Do you have like a YouTube channel or, anything like that where you like highlight some of the stuff that you got going on?
I do not. It is something people have told me that I should make. Um, I'm more of a behind the scenes storyteller than an upfront
Okay.
storyteller, but I've thought about it. And maybe, especially going into, I wish I would have had it going into Tokyo because that would have been a really cool story to tell. And I've
Yeah.
thought about like, book writing later on in the future, but I think going into Paris Olympics, if I'm lucky enough to go, that's something that I'm definitely going to look into.
Perfect. Well, we're gonna hold you to that. Definitely excited for your future. We see great things happening, both on the field or on the court, off the court. Um, as we let you leave, is there any any last thing that you would like to share with the audience, whether it's something that you got currently going on or a piece of advice or a book that they should read, before we close out?
Nothing besides invest in women's sports. I
Hey,
think if the past
respect.
few years has told us anything, women's sports are definitely on the rise, especially in the States. Playing overseas, I've seen so many different countries do it, and I think it's time that America does it themselves. So whether that's tuning into your local, I don't know, soccer, basketball, women's basketball, volleyball, that's now coming, lacrosse. There's so many different sports to be plugged into, and there's so many different ways that your dollar can stretch to invest in these sports. So I would just encourage everyone to do a little research, especially in the area that they're living in, and just continue to support and invest in women's sports.
That's great. That's great. And then how can people connect with you, follow you, if they want to?
Yeah, on Instagram, my username is at Chiaka11. And then on Twitter, I'm at Chiaka Ogbogu. So you can follow me on any of those two platforms. I'm not really on TikTok. I have one, but I don't really post yet.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, there you have it, folks. Chiaka Ogbogu, international star, volleyball player, all around great person. I want to appreciate her for taking the time to get on the podcast, get on the show, because she is a busy lady. Overseas, there's a time difference, and trying to finish out the season as they prepare for the off season. But even though she doesn't have an off season, we really appreciate you for the time. Make sure you check her out. We're gonna have all her information in the show notes. Once again, Chiaka, really appreciate you, and look forward to following your progress and maybe connecting, collaborating on a few things down the road.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
All right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you please subscribe. If you are watching on YouTube, if you're listening on audio, please rate. It helps us continue to get great guests on the show. And we always appreciate the feedback. But with that being said, we'll catch you guys next week.